Period. They did it too. Never.
Well, hello everyone, welcome back to On The Fly. Today we're taking with Day 6 of the Women's World Championship, currently happening out in Denmark. So hopping right onto it with the scores from today's game. As was just mentioned, yes, Canada did lose a game of hockey, period. US did beat them 5-2, and in this game, Canada got out to an early start. They started slow right off the top, but around 5 minutes in, Canada did find their step and were able to really pressure the Americans for the most part. The game started very slow for Canada, and really the slowest they've looked. It does make sense. Obviously, they haven't been playing terribly great competition, very skill-wise, but playing a team like the Americans, you got to be on your game from start to finish. And really, at the start of the game today, they weren't ready. They weren't ready to play at all. They got a quick goal, luckily for Canada, and they were able to sort of build on that until the second period, and everything went down in the second. The third period was similar to the second. Canada really just struggling to find it, and that ended up being the case for the game. 5-2 America, beating Canada. And I wouldn't fret too much as a Canadian fan. This is only the round-robin play, and yes, it is an important game to set the tone for most likely going to be the final. I don't want to jinx it, but most likely will end up being the final between Canada and the U.S. But at the same time, Canada now has a tougher road to the final, having to go through Finland, assuming, of course, Finland doesn't choke the Czechs tomorrow. A lot of ifs. But with that being said, this game is definitely a good step for the U.S., and I think the U.S. has looked really, really good this entire tournament. And I think they've actually looked a lot better than Canada has. And Canada, in my opinion, hasn't looked that good compared to some of the other teams. And like the Finns, in my opinion, are actually looking better than Canada is right now. Of course, we'll still see what goes on there. Moving on to the second game of the day with the Czechs and the Swedes. And in this game, 3-0 Czechs was the final, settling the top of Group B. Group A was settled with the Canada-US game. Czechs, Swedes determined the top in Group B. And in this game, it was a lot closer than I suspected. I said yesterday it's probably going to be a Czech blowout, and because the Czechs did look really good coming up to it. But the Czechs, like Canada, started really slow in this game and couldn't figure it out past that first period. Luckily, they did have stuff in the tank and were able to win the second period and end up winning the third period. So winning 3-0 against the Swedes isn't exactly how you want to go into the quarterfinal rounds, having to play Finns. But hopefully they've been saving their goals and really saving the amount of the way they play in order to beat the Finns, because they're going to have to be on their best game and hope for Finland to have an off day in order to win this. However, moving on to Game 3 of the day with Finland and Switzerland, and this one determined the third spot in Group A. Finland did win 4-0 in this game. Despite the score, it was not a close game. Overall, the Finns outshot Switzerland 44-6. And when you have 6 shots on net and the other team has 4 goals, likely not going to win a hockey game. So this game, Finland really showed themselves to be able to contend, especially with some of the worst teams, and really been able to get out of that sort of rut that they've been in, not being able to really beat some of the worst teams by margins. Although the score doesn't reflect it, the shots do, and Finland dominated from start to finish overall in this game. Moving on to the fourth game of the day, and in this game it was quite the day. We had Germany taking on Denmark. Germany needed 3 points, a regulation win, in order to not get relegated. Denmark needed 1 point to advance to the quarterfinal. Sure enough, 2-2 with a minute left, and guess who pulls their goalie? Yes, that is Germany. Germany finds a way to put in a goal with the empty netter and sending Denmark to the relegation stage. Germany making their way through, not to the quarterfinals, but not getting relegated. And it was a big step for German hockey not being relegated, because the truth is, as I mentioned before, that loss to Hungary is going to haunt them for a very long time, especially if they would have made that game go into overtime. 1 second left was the difference between Germany being relegated to them not being relegated, from Denmark making the quarterfinals to them not making the quarterfinals. It's amazing what 1 second can do. However, move on to the standings. These are the final standings. We got the U.S. in first place with 12 points, Canada in second with 9, Finland in third with 6 points, Swiss with 3 points, Japan coming up the rear with 0. Swiss and Japan, going to be a good game to watch. I think it's going to be a lot closer than some people think. As for the Group B standings, Czechs in first with 12, Sweden with 7. You have Hungary with 4 points, Germany with 4 points. Hungary wins by the head-to-head tiebreaker, and finally Denmark with what does that say? That says 1 point, but it should be 3 points. And so with that, Denmark really just missed out today. If they would have got the 1 point over Germany, Denmark would have been in because they did beat Hungary yesterday. So it was a very big win for Denmark, being able to beat Hungary. Just unfortunate they could not seal one more second off the clock before that game would have ended. Coming up, we have Japan and Swiss coming up at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. These are the quarterfinal matchups. My personal take, I think Japan's going to pull off an upset. I think when you really come down to the wire, when it comes playoff time for Japan, their first real shot at making it past the quarterfinals, I would not be surprised to see Japan knock out the Swiss, and I think that's going to become a major surprise. That is my guess. I'm hoping to lock that in. I think that's going to be probably the best game we will see. Second game of the day, US-Hungary coming up at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Finland and the Czechs, 11:30. That's the other game that's probably going to be a decent game. There's been a lot of interesting games between those two teams. You've had close games, really tight games, and then you've had blowouts. So you'll probably know after that first period whether or not it's going to be a blowout, whether it's going to be a close game. But if it is a close game after the first period, make sure to tune in because you are going to be in for a wild ride. Finally, Canada-Sweden coming up at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to watch that game. I don't really think it's going to be that good of a game. In my opinion, if I had to take guesses on score, 12-0 US, probably 8-2 for Canada. Those are my official predictions for those two games. I think Finland's going to pull away, and I think Japan is going to win in probably overtime or a shootout. But with that, if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you really liked it, consider subscribing. Tell all your friends and comment down below your thoughts on Day 6 of the Women's World Championship. Until next time, see ya.